Good afternoon and welcome. You are tuned in and listening to Bat Talk with Sharona. I'm your host. My name is Sharona. Hey, thanks for tuning in. This is going to be a quick podcast. As you guys know, as I've been telling you, Sharona is easing into a little bit of a hiatus. It's been a very busy season in football. We did a lot of podcasts. Last week we did a 3-hour super long Super Bowl preview show, which was a lot of fun. Shout out to Bill King, who joined me in the first hour of that podcast to talk about National Signing Day, and to the guys from Feels Like 98 and to Coach Daniel Seahorn in the second hour to continue that discussion and talk about Tennessee athletics, Tennessee football, first with the Feels Like 98 crew, and then second part of that hour, Coach Seahorn and I talked about Texas football, Charlie Strong, the fantastic job he is doing rebuilding that program. Unfortunately, the lawsuit, the Tennessee Title IX lawsuit that we're getting ready to talk about, had not dropped before I had the Feels Like 98 crew on the show. So I need to get them back on here. We definitely promised to talk about the presidential elections, big topic on this show here lately, and of course the Democratic debate last night. We'll talk about that here in a minute as well. But we're going to start with the Tennessee lawsuit, Title IX lawsuit against the university. But before we finish up the shout-outs from last Friday, also shout-out to Vasti Hurt of Carolina Blitz, as well as Jennifer Eakins, our Denver Broncos correspondent, for joining me for a video chat. Check that out on my YouTube channel, and please give it a subscribe, Sharona Sports. It was so much fun having that discussion, and we talked about a lot of different things, Cam Newton, and all of that. Shout out to them for taking the time to sit down with me. All right, so the Tennessee lawsuit, we're going to lead off with that, but let me go ahead and tell you some of the other things that we're going to be talking about. Meryl Streep with some rather interesting comments. We'll finish up today's show with a brief commentary, the final word with Sharona, a brief commentary about Kanye's latest compilation, his latest I suppose you can still call them albums. I'm kind of old school. I'll call them albums. If you got a better word to use, hit me up. Tell me what you think we should call these things now. In the digital age, vinyl is gone the age of the dodo bird. We don't think in terms of vinyl, but that's how I grew up with vinyl, and a lot of my listeners did too. So this is kind of an interesting thing. What should we call them? I don't know. That's an interesting thing. But let's talk a little bit about the Tennessee lawsuit. I talked about it a little bit on Wednesday night's show, Going for Two. That's the show that I do with Zach Law. First of all, let's make something clear. This lawsuit isn't about the underlying allegations of rape and sexual assault, the long list, quite frankly, of allegations there of rape and sexual assault by athletes who are currently or have been members of the student body at the University of Tennessee. But it is about the collective response by the university and as well as the players to those allegations, and how the university has engaged in a pattern of, and pattern is important here, has engaged in a pattern of activity and a pattern of behavior that has created what the lawsuit terms a hostile environment. As it is, certain allegations that underpin the lawsuit will certainly be important. But on its face, what we're talking about is the university's response, and Title IX carries with it certain responsibilities, and the first of which is a timely response. If you'll recall, Florida State in the Jameis Winston situation was found culpable in violating Title IX because of its delay in handling the situation and how it responded to that. And this is similar. There are some other things out there, of course, but this is similar in that since it does carry with it some allegations in regards to two of the plaintiffs, and one of them involves a claim that was made back in October of 2014. Here we are, February 12, 2016, that has still not been resolved. And, that's a problem, people, that's a problem. And so, on its face, it certainly carries with it some troubling allegations outside of whether or not, there actually was a sexual assault. The response by the university, the allegations regarding the lack of response, in certain cases the response is certainly troubling, in that sense. And in that regard, I also feel compelled to weigh in once again on the Little John portion of the lawsuit. Listen, we're talking about a pattern here, and this lawsuit, this Title IX lawsuit, alleges that there was a pattern of conduct that enabled these athletes to engage in the activity to which they are accused of in the underlying sexual assault allegations, and that is the drinking, the providing of alcohol to minor female students, in order to incapacitate them and to take advantage of them. That these athletes were enabled not only by the university but by the coaching staff, and that is where I feel compelled to talk once again about what I perceive to be one of the biggest failures in that regard with regard to Coach Butch Jones and his coaching staff, and that is this. First of all, football coaches were, and I, from what I understand, this portion of it is certainly true, were present at some of these parties that were thrown by these athletes, where drinking was involved, where alcohol was provided to minors, and the coaches actively worked to cover up these activities and the allegations and some of the other things that are part of the underlying portion of the lawsuit, and that is the sexual misconduct, the rape, the sexual assault, the things of that nature. And then, the second part of that, and I know people don't want to hear the truth, but this is the truth. It was a bad look for Butch Jones. Listen, you're not their friends, buddy. You're their coach. You're supposed to be a leader. I said it at the time. I'll say it again. It was such a bad look for you and for Tennessee to get in bed with Little John and to play those types of lyrics. And it looks even worse now that we know what was going on at the time. And my heart goes out to the alleged victims in this case, who were forced to sit and watch all of this, and to realize that Tennessee and its coaching staff did not care one bit about any damage that they might be causing to any of these young women who had come forward. It was selfish. It was disgusting. And, I don't know what weight a judge is going to give this. Probably not much, but this is the court of public opinion, and in the court of public opinion, I'm absolutely disgusted with Butch Jones and his actions. Now, of course, it's not just the coaches, and not just the football coaches. I'm really disappointed in Quanzo Martin, who also engaged in unacceptable behavior, in my opinion, with one of his basketball players, hiding the allegations against him and allowing these things to go on. It really is once you peel back the layers of this, it really is such a bad look for the university. And if there's even a kernel of truth to some of this, and from what I understand there is, I would think that all Tennessee Volunteer fans would agree that it's time to clean things up, to do better, to make sure that we're engaging, we as a community are engaging in the right type of behavior, in the right type, in maintaining the right environment that does not cause further damage or further harm to women, to young women who come forward with allegations of misconduct against the athletes of the university. We want to pride ourselves on being a great community, on being a great university, and as part of that, it would be creating an environment where young women aren't forced to drop out of school or to transfer to other universities. Now, one of the young women was able to complete her education, but I think back to the Florida State situation, the Vanderbilt situation, and I recall some of the things that were said by fans of the University of Tennessee athletic program in regard to those allegations and the smugness and other situations. But now, they're bashing the lawsuit because it's against their beloved university. They're bashing the lawsuit. They're bashing the reporters who are simply just reporting about it, doing their job, reporting about it. I remember them talking about how awful it was that the people who were reporting about the Florida State allegations were getting, death threats and things of that nature. Yet they're engaging in the same behavior. Maybe take a look in the mirror, take a look at yourself, and realize that there's culpability there too, and that you need to do better, because it's a terrible look. It's just an awful, awful situation for the university, and hopefully we will learn from it, and we will get better. So, I don't know. We'll see. All right, so that's it for the Tennessee lawsuit. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, Meryl Streep. So stay tuned in. You're listening to Bat Talk with Sharona. Welcome back. You're listening to Bat Talk with Sharona. In non-football news, non-sports news, big discovery this past week. Albert Einstein stays showing that he's the GOAT, the greatest of all time. Einstein, of course, predicted early on back in the 20th century that gravity was a thing, and that the gravitational pull was something that existed, and now we finally, roughly about 100 years later, we finally have proof of that. This past week, researchers at the Laser Interferometer Gravitational Wave Observatory, LIGO for short, let's just call it LIGO because that kind of strained my vocabulary abilities. But they've been working around the clock trying to verify Einstein's theory, and that gravitational waves are in fact a very real thing. And of course, we sort of knew that this was coming, because back in the 80s, rather a long time ago, there was some indirect evidence of it, and we've kind of long felt like it was a thing, but now we've got direct proof that gravitational waves were in fact observed on September the 14th, 2015 at 5:51 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time by the LIGO detectors. These detectors, by the way, were located in two locations: Livingston, Louisiana. We should probably talk about Louisiana before we really get too far off of sports. But Livingston, Louisiana, and Hanford, Washington. The apparent source of this was a massive black hole collision that took place 1.35 billion years ago. And so that's kind of big news. Gravitational waves, by the way, are ripples in the universe caused by energy released in the cosmos. And I'm going to be tweeting out the article that I'm getting, the source article that I'm getting all this information from. It's by Maddie Stone at Gizmodo, and it's really good, talking about this and talking about the background and all of this. So, hey, congratulations to Einstein for remaining the greatest of all time and for this discovery. I wonder what kind of practical application this is going to have. Very, very interesting situation. We need to talk about the healthcare, of course, is big in the presidential debates, and a topic that I've been thinking about, something that I've been tossing around in my brain, is our pharmaceutical industry, which is known for some rather nefarious characters and things. Martin Shkreli, guy who's been kind of big in the news. We're going to talk about Kanye, not him. We're going to talk about Kanye at the conclusion of today's show. But I definitely want to talk about some of the interesting things that are going on healthcare wise and with the pharmaceutical industry. So we need to mark that down and make that a topic for another day, for another discussion. But so shout out to Einstein for his theory being confirmed, and we'll see what comes of all of this. Rather interesting stuff. So Meryl Streep had kind of a big week. Meryl Streep, award-winning actress, someone that I admire, who is a fantastic actress, and I think that she's extremely intelligent, and she's usually very thoughtful. She's someone who I admire for being very vocal and supportive of diversity and inclusion, and who has been calling for progress to be made in Hollywood in terms of wage disparity and things of that nature. But she has some rather interesting comments at the Berlin Film Festival, where she was there as a juror on a panel talking about diversity in the movie industry. Not only was she part of that panel, but she was also the jury president. And she was asked some questions regarding diversity in Hollywood, and this is what she had to say. This jury is evidence that at least women are included and, in fact, dominate this jury, and that's an unusual situation in bodies of people who make decisions. So I think the Berlindale is ahead of the game. By the way, the Berlindale Film Festival included a 7-member jury that had German actor Lars Eidinger, British film critic Nick James, French photographer Bridget Lacombe, British actor Clive Owen, Italian actress Alba Rohrwacher, and I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to pronounce the Polish director's name correctly, Małgorzata Szmumowska, and her last name is spelled Szumowska. I apologize for not knowing the correct pronunciation there. But Streep goes on to say, and I'll quote directly, I have absolutely no idea how to run a jury, but I've been the boss of other enterprises, my family, and various other things, so I'm going to learn by doing. And then she was asked by an Egyptian reporter whether she understood films from the Arab world and from North Africa. Streep said while she didn't know much about the region, I played a lot of different people from a lot of different cultures. And this is when she says what is really troublesome. She says there is a core of humanity that travels right through every culture, and after all, we're all from Africa originally. She goes on to further say, we're all Berliners, we're all Africans, really. Well, Meryl, while I think that there's a point possibly to be made here, not exactly sure what you're trying to say. If there is a larger point that you're trying to say, and there was some humor in her voice when she was saying this, then you need to make it, because leaving it like it is, leaving it like you did, it just comes across as a bad look. And not only does it come across as a bad look, but it comes across in that white feminist way that's incredibly dismissive of other ideas, of other thoughts, of other people's opinions, and it also smacks of appropriation. Appropriation is a topic that we talk about a lot on this show, and it does. I mean, it just smacks entirely of appropriation, of dismissing that culture, of dismissing the question really in general. It's a bad look for someone that I really respect, and I certainly hope that she'll come out and make some clarifying comments. I don't know. We'll see how that goes. Very, very, very interesting stuff from her. You know, I'm a pretty forgiving person, and I know that we all make mistakes and all of that, but it was really disappointing to see and hear this from Meryl Streep. Before we get to our political discussion, I want to laugh at Cleveland again. We've talked a little bit about Cleveland on this show. The Tamir Rice situation is heartbreaking. You know, my thoughts and prayers go out to his family and to everyone affected by that. But to top off what is an absolutely despicable, horrible, terrible situation, Cleveland, the city of Cleveland, in the probate case involving that situation, filed a claim for $500. I believe that's the amount, $500. It doesn't matter really the amount. What matters is that the city of Cleveland, in its despicability, filed a claim for the ambulance bill, and how it really didn't respond to that situation, and then went through a series of fumbles trying to justify that. It was a terrible, terrible look. They have now come out and said that they were going to that was a mistake. They didn't mean to do that. Shouldn't have done that. And no, you really shouldn't have. It's again, it's morally reprehensible that they would even think about doing that, and we just got to do better. We've definitely got to do better. Let's talk a little bit about what's going on down. Speaking of politics, let's talk a little bit about what's going on down in Louisiana, and then we'll take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll talk about the Democratic presidential debate last night. But first, let's talk about Louisiana. So, Louisiana Governor John Bel Edwards says that higher education in the state could be compromised if the current budget crisis the state is facing isn't resolved. In a statewide address that was televised yesterday, on Thursday, he said that college campuses could run out of money and could be forced to shut down in April, which places the upcoming football season in jeopardy. He also highlighted the LSU football team as one program that could be lost as a result of massive cuts to higher education funding. And this is what he had to say. If you are a student attending one of these universities, it means that you will receive a grade of incomplete. Many students will not be able to graduate, and student athletes across the state at these schools will be ineligible to play next semester. That means you can say farewell to college football next fall. He goes on to say, these are not scare tactics. This is reality. An unstable state budget will not only hurt children and working families in our state, it will devastate communities, businesses, and local government as well. This, of course, is all the result of a showdown between the governor, who's a Democrat, and state Republicans, who are unhappy with the size of the proposed tax cut increases. Of the proposed tax increases, and this is what the Republican spokesperson, Treasurer John Kennedy, had to say in response. Governor Edwards is proposing to implement the largest tax increase in the history of Louisiana. It will wreck our economy, which is already fragile. LSU football being used as a way to try to as ammunition. That's the word I'm looking for. Ammunition in the fight between political candidates down there in the great state of Louisiana. I don't think that anybody believes that this is actually going to happen. We'll see what happens with this situation. But it's a great way to segue into our political commentary on last night's presidential debate. Hillary, Bernie, we've been talking a lot about Bernie on here. So we'll take another quick break. When we come back, my thoughts on the current state of the Democratic presidential situation. So stay tuned in. You're listening to Back Talk with Sharona. Good afternoon and welcome back. You're listening to Bat Talk with Sharona. And before we get to our political discussion, let me just have a moment to be that girl. I had to run out to the grocery store a few minutes ago, and it was packed, as you might expect. Anytime the S word, that dreaded S word, gets mentioned. And so it was a mess, and so we're running a little bit late today on today's show because of that, but I had a chance to wear a pair of yoga pants I hadn't worn in quite a while, and I've been trying to do a lot better, about eating and exercising and all of that, and so I have dropped a few pounds, which is good. So these yoga pants were slipping and sliding, which I can tell you guys is not nearly as cool as the hand jive. Shout out to Jonathan Stewart for that. I haven't got a chance to really talk about that on this show. So it was definitely very much an adventure, and happy to be back and working on today's show. Also, as because today didn't feature enough self-loathing at the grocery store with the the pants situation, I decided that it was time to check out this new KFC Nashville hot chicken attempt to replicate and be great like Nashville hot chicken. And I have to say, I've been kind of critical of it, and I have to say it was every bit as bad as I expected. So I tried it so you didn't have to, and I'm here to tell you that if you've ever had Nashville hot chicken, it ain't even close. It's not only not in the same ballpark, it's not in the same state, it ain't even on the same planet. The first piece that I tried wasn't even remotely close to being hot. The second one definitely was hotter anyway, but overall just disappointing in that experience. Now the rest of the meal was okay. KFC definitely has great mashed potatoes and gravy, and their mac and cheese is pretty good, so shout out to them for that. But the hot chicken, that big, nope, never doing that again. So all right, so we've been talking a lot about Bernie Sanders on this show. The issue of reparations has come up. And with the Democratic debate last night, I thought it would be a great time to start talking about Hillary some more. We had talked about Hillary early on in the genesis of this podcast. Now, we hadn't had a chance to really talk about her lately, not in any great detail, but now is the time to do that. So there was a great article on The Nation. It was written by someone that I respect a lot. And it was talking about Michelle Alexander, was talking about Hillary's problem with the black vote, with black Americans. And it sort of mirrors a lot of the problems that I have with the Clintons. And not specifically with Hillary, a little bit more on that. But, the Clintons' history with regard to the black vote is very interesting. We're going to tweet it out. I would encourage you to check it out. But the crime bill, the policies, the three strikes law that Clinton really pushed through and championed and was so proud of was an utter disaster. It was terrible. It might just be the worst law in the history of criminal laws, and I'm not sure that I'm overstating that by any means. But it was terrible. It was absolutely horrible, and predictably, it fell disproportionately on the black community, and the numbers in regard to incarceration are atrocious. The numbers in regard to black poverty, even worse so. It really is a fantastic article. Again, I would encourage you to read it. And to her credit, Hillary Clinton now decries that legacy and has dedicated a significant portion of her platform to policies that are designed to help alleviate some of the issues that it caused. But it's not that easy to erase. And when you consider this country's legacy, when you consider the long history of Jim Crow and Bill Clinton, famously, the governor of Arkansas, and during his tenure oversaw the capital punishment death of a mentally disabled black male. Those types of wounds are really hard to heal, and so it's interesting to watch Bernie and Hillary both, Bernie Sanders and Hillary both. And, I'm going to shake myself right now. I should call them not Hillary, but I should call them Clinton and Sanders instead of by their first names. I think that's the appropriate and correct thing to do, and I'm going to try to do better myself in that regard. But, it's interesting to watch them try to court the black vote as well as the young women's vote. We're going to talk about that here in a minute, because there have been some missteps along the way. There have been some hiccups. There's definitely a lot of scrutiny. As you would expect, both are trying to follow in the footsteps of Barack Obama, who has meant so much to black Americans, and we can talk about his legacy too. I mean, I've been and still going to be very critical of his civil rights policies. I don't think that in the years to come, I don't think that they're going to bear very positive fruit under scrutiny, but we'll see how that goes. The war on terrorism has greatly eroded our rights, and we live in troubling times. There's no question about that. But back to Clinton and Sanders. The debate last night was very interesting. I thought it was a lot of appearance over substance. I wanted to hear them specifically address the issue of abortion. I want them to go on record. I want them to say the word. I want them to talk to the women out here who care about that as an issue, who watch our rights, our reproductive rights being bartered and bargained away, and I want to hear them talk about it. And the word didn't come up. It only came up in a very vague sense. And you know what? Even though I thought that the moderators, the women who were moderating the event, did a good job, I definitely have some criticism for them for not raising that as an issue. And I hope that in the weeks to come we'll hear more from both of these candidates, because it's an important issue, and it's certainly not something that needs to be overlooked, that needs to be swept under the rug. Abortion is a right that women are watching being eroded away. We don't want to see our bodies our agency over our bodies taken away from us and bargained away as part of political capital, which is happening everywhere. And so hopefully we'll hear from these candidates on that, and they will, weigh in. I understand that they're both have gone on record saying that they are, pro a woman's choice, but I want to hear what that means to you. I want to hear your platform. I want to know what you're going to do and what you're not going to want to do. I want to know, Hillary Clinton, that my right to my own body is not going to be the product of some politically expedient right that you think you can barter away at some other time, because we know that this has been an issue with the Clintons. So, it's definitely very interesting. Bernie Sanders did some things, and I like Bernie Sanders, don't get me wrong. I think Sanders has a lot of good things to say, but he did some things that I didn't particularly like very much. And one of the more interesting things, and I was talking about this on Twitter last night, was the round of applause, the cheers that he got. They're both Clinton and Sanders are both fighting over Barack Obama. He's mine, no, he's mine, no, he's mine, no, he's mine. There's some criticism that you can level, as everything is. It all depends on how you handle that. But I didn't quite understand Sanders' response to some of that by saying, well, I'm not the one who ran against Barack Obama, you are, as if that is something that Hillary Clinton should be ashamed of, or that's evidence that she's anti-Barack Obama. It's ridiculous. Hillary Clinton has been in politics a long time. Everybody's known anytime that she's ever ran for anything. Y'all have known about it. She was in that race every single time she was in the race before Obama was. And this notion that, oh, hey, little lady, you should just step aside because the menfolk have come along, that's ridiculous, and it's sexist, and it has really no place in that particular debate. And so I didn't understand that. I thought it was completely and utterly outrageous. It was definitely a moment that made me, I tried not to be terribly defensive of either one of these candidates. I've been mostly sitting back and watching to see how things unfold. I have not publicly really thrown my hat in any campaign in either arena. But, I was forced to defend Hillary over that because it's a ridiculous notion that simply because she ran her campaign that she was anti-Barack Obama. Now, you can talk about what she said or what she did or any number of these other things that are criticism worthy, but the mere fact that she asserted her right to run as a political candidate, no, you can miss me with every single bit of that. Now, having said that, I definitely think that Clinton and some of her allies need to check themselves on some of the things that they have been saying. We've talked a little bit about this, white feminism and the way they have attacked young females who have in large part flocked to Bernie Sanders for a lot of different reasons. Hillary Clinton has she's got a troublesome legacy, as we've touched upon already. But how they chose to handle that was terrible. It was simply outrageous, saying that these young women were flocking to Sanders because that's where the boys are, and among other things. It was completely and utterly ridiculous and untrue. It's simply not true, and they've got to do better. Here's the thing, and I'm going to get real about Hillary Clinton right now. For a lot of women, and you can put me in this category, I look at her, and while I respect what she's done, and while I want to believe that she's going to be the best person to protect my rights, the ones that I cherish as a woman, I also look at her and think, this is not a woman that I can relate to with her political marriage of convenience and her the policies that she's espoused, and the way that you can defend her for standing by her man and whatever. But I don't think there are very many women out here who look at that and think, I want that for myself. I want a political marriage of convenience, and I want to sit back and watch my husband do the things that that Bill Clinton did, and the way that he carried on and acted toward women, and a lot of the rumors and whatnot, the impeachment and all of that. I think that hurts her with women, because I think that women look at that and think, that's not something I can relate to, and I would have never done that. And I know that that sounds terrible because I think that in a lot of ways it's unfair. I mean, you see that kind of thought process, you see that kind of thinking, and domestic violence and in rape and in things like that. But that's just the reality. I'm just being real with you, and I'm just telling you, as a woman sitting here watching Hillary Clinton, I very much feel torn with regard to my feelings toward her, with regard to my, how I view her, and it has as much to do with some of that as it does with some of the troublesome aspect of their voting legacy. And not to I mean, a big part of last night's thing was was dedicated to Henry Kissinger and all of that, and that's real too. That's definitely real, and it's something that that she's going to have to handle. Bernie Sanders, on the other hand, has been his civil rights background and his participation in that movement has been questioned, and I'm not going to really touch upon that because I respect that gentleman, John Lewis, his right to say what he had to say, and I don't think anything's going to come of me doing that. But I do think that there's sufficient evidence there to say that Bernie Sanders certainly is entitled to have that on his resume, and to maintain that he was a big part of that. The evidence is definitely there. For Sanders, I'm more concerned about his platform and agenda. And while it's very progressive and I like a lot of things that I hear about it, I want to know how he's going to implement some of the things that he thinks that he can implement. What are the practicalities here? How are you going to fund some of these things? I need more specifics. Again, last night was very much a window dressing kind of debate to me. I didn't feel like either candidate really got into the issues. I didn't feel like I got very much substance out of either one, and I definitely want to hear more details. I want to hear how they're going to specifically what they're going to do. They're going to have to set forth their platforms in far more detail before I'm going to be willing to buy into anything that either one of them are saying. And so, I'm very interested to see how things go from here, what we hear from them. Here's another interesting thing, and something that's not being talked about enough, I don't think, and that's that even though, and we've seen this before, even though Bernie Sanders is largely commanding a big part of the popular vote, Hillary Clinton, because of the way our electoral system works, Hillary Clinton is gaining the lion's share of the electoral votes. And that if that doesn't trouble you, well, it should. I mean, it really should, because it's definitely troubling. It speaks to a lot of the intersection of a lot of things in our political process, and I know I'm very troubled by it. And if you're paying attention, you should be too, because it does raise a lot of serious concerns. So back to Sanders and some of the things that I wanted to say about that. I thought at moments he was very paternalistic toward Hillary Clinton, and it struck me. And I wonder how many women out there thought this. I couldn't help but think, we've all been there, done that, where we've had some man be dismissive of our ideas or of our opinion or of our voice, what we're trying to say. You're not in the White House yet, Hillary, and all of this stuff. And I think Bernie Sanders has to be very, very, very careful with that, because it definitely affected me in a way that made me want to defend Hillary Clinton, and that made me uncomfortable with him as a candidate and with him as someone who professes to champion for women. It was definitely something that struck me. So You can do with that what you will. All right, so that's it for the political section of today's show. We'll take another quick break. When we come back, we'll talk some Kanye West and some other things, so stay tuned in. You are listening to Bat Talk with Sharona.
I shoot the lights out, hide till it's bright out. Oh, just another lonely night. Are you willing to sacrifice your life?
All right, so welcome back. You're listening to Bat Talk with Sharona. I am your host. My name is Sharona. Happy Friday. We're going to talk some Kanye here in a minute. But first of all, before we get there, I want to tell you guys I am sitting here. It's Friday afternoon. It's after 3 o'clock my time. It's 5 o'clock somewhere. And I am trying something different, a different drink than I have ever had before. And I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce the brewery, but it is a cranberry ginger shandy. And so it is some kind of, I was trying to get a cider. It's some kind of weird alcoholic beverage. I'll take a picture of it and post it out there on social media. But it's different, it's Lent, happy Lent. If you're Catholic like me, you either gave up something or you're affirmatively out there doing something. So I had originally intended to give up alcohol. I don't know what I was thinking with this political nonsense that's going on, with all the things that are going on in the world. I don't know. We'll see. I'm finishing up on some things that I already had. I probably will not restock until after Lent is over. I think it's a good opportunity to to cleanse, to detox, and to do a lot of things. And so I'm sorry about that. So I'm definitely going. The peanut gallery had to weigh in. I'm definitely going to chill a little bit more and kick back and reduce the alcohol consumption. Again, I'm trying to be healthier. I'm trying to lose some weight. Trying to get back in somewhat fighting shape. We'll see how that goes. It's interesting. Again, I'll post this out there on social media if you're looking for new things. It was pretty interesting. I had an interesting discussion on Twitter about IPAs and stouts and porters. There's a poll circulating out about whether IPAs are any good or not. I like an IPA, but I definitely prefer either a porter or a stout. But I don't have nothing against IPAs. I'm not an IPA. I'm not a beer purist. I like what I like, and I like to try different things and whatever. But it's a big week. Been a big week for Kanye West. We've talked about Kanye on this show. You guys know that I think that Kanye is basically washed. I thought the single that he dropped on his own not too long ago was awful. His vocals sounded terrible. The latest single that he dropped with Kendrick Lamar was good because of Kendrick Lamar. But it's been a big week for Kanye. He's been doing his Yeezy Season 3 fashion show, and a new compilation, as we mentioned, has dropped. More on that later. Again, he held this presentation. It was at Madison Square Garden. It was a fashion show. It was a visual presentation, and he also played his new album, which is entitled The Life of Pablo. I have not, full disclosure, I have not listened to it in any great detail, although we are going to be talking about one of the lyrics in specific in just a moment. But from what I gather, it was quite the spectacle, as you would expect of anything associated with Kanye West. There were some people who were involved in that tweeting out some of the requirements, which were kind of funny, and not ha-ha funny, but ironic funny. And some people were recruited into it, and they were unhappy because they didn't get paid for it. It was all about their recompense was about the publicity, the moment, being present at a Kanye thing. I suppose if that's your thing, it's something that you would want to give up a significant amount of your time and attention to. Again, I didn't see it, I didn't watch it. I know that it was very popular and that a lot of people did. In fact, I think that the live streaming of his new compilation, there was such a demand for it that it crashed, and not everybody got to, to listen to it. But what I want to talk specifically about is a very brief portion of one of the lyrics in the life of Pablo, in which Kanye West has some things to say about Taylor Swift. But let me back up before I get there and remind everyone, first of all, that Kanye West, not too long ago, had a very public Twitter beef with Wiz Khalifa, who married and had a child with someone that he used to date, Amber Rose, and that beef was because he thought that Wiz Khalifa, who used the two letters KK in a tweet, was talking about Kim Kardashian, when in fact he was talking about weed. So he made a big deal about it, and I had a lot of dudes come at me and say, oh, it's okay. He was just defending his wife. He was just defending his woman. He thought Wiz was popping off about his girl, and, so that's okay. He should be able to do that and all of that, which, if you're entitled to think whatever you want to think. If that's what you think, that's fine. But regardless, that was a big thing circulating out there on social media, and I think that's important as a background to what I'm about to say. And then let's talk a little bit about Beyonce and the video formation that she dropped in her fantastic performance, Super Bowl halftime. Coldplay, the original act, booked to perform that, and Chris Martin invited other people, and Beyonce being one of them, and it was a big show, and it was a fantastic show, and there were a lot of blendings of the musical artists that were there, and Chris Martin was a guy who facilitated all that, who made that happen. And so I think that with that background in mind, we should talk about what Kanye West had to say about Taylor Swift. And this is what he says. I'm reading from an article that I'll be tweeting out from Jezebel, which you guys know I read that blog a lot. Oh, by the way, Kanye topped off that crowning moment of glory with some tweets, with a tweet about Bill Cosby, in which he said that Bill Cosby was innocent, but I digress. So Kanye, in his infinite glory, in some of the lyrics on his new compilation, said, "I feel like me and Taylor might still have sex. Why? I made that bitch famous. Goddamn, I made that bitch famous." So again, referring to Taylor Swift. And if you've been living under a rock, Kanye very infamously interrupted Taylor when she was about to get an award at the VMAs because he was unhappy that she got it instead of Beyonce, and he thought that it was appropriate that he do that. And he has subsequently apologized, and she's forgiven him and all of that. But apparently he hasn't forgotten it, just like he hasn't forgotten Amber, just like he hasn't forgotten a lot of things. So he felt it appropriate to make that comment in the lyrics on his new album, which, first of all, no, Kanye, sit your ass down. You didn't make Taylor Swift famous. Taylor Swift was already famous. She was already huge and about to become bigger. And by the way, if anybody helped make Taylor Swift, it's Kendrick Lamar. You're going to always take a back seat to him, honey, unfortunately, because he's just ultimately more talented than you. But I digress. So let's parse out what Kanye is saying here. First of all, Kanye, a married man, feels it appropriate to talk about another woman this way, despite that fact. And I don't care, maybe they're swingers, maybe they're okay with getting out and getting nasty with other people. That's fine. I ain't mad at you if that's your thing. I ain't mad at you. But it's inappropriate on so many levels, and a good way to look at it is to look at it in this kind of light. So, despite the fact that A, it's not true, and B, it's an epic douchebag moment, let's turn the situation around a little bit, and let's imagine that if Chris Martin, again, the lead singer for Coldplay, who helped facilitate Beyonce being a major factor in the Super Bowl halftime show not too long ago. Let's imagine that if after that was all said and done and Chris Martin did a song, dropped a new song in which he said something to the effect that, oh, hey, Beyonce, I'm going to take you to Bonefish Grill and I'm going to show you what a real man can do. No Red Lobster-ish for me. I'm going to do you right. Bonefish, wink, 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 that kind of thing. Everybody would have lost their freaking mind. Because, first of all, you know what? No. Well, Chris Martin would never do that. And it doesn't have anything to do with the color of his skin. It has everything to do with the fact that I'm reasonably certain that when Chris Martin farts, he farts out sunshine and rainbows. Dude is just that chill. He's just that kind of person. And people should rightfully lose their mind over something like that. Kanye, I don't care. First of all, Taylor Swift denies that she approved this, and Kanye's, Kim, my wife, Kim, I don't care if Kim approved this. Kim can kiss my ass too if she approved this. It is inappropriate. It is absolutely awful. And, this is what Kanye has become now. Dude's so washed that he's got to say stupid shit like this to get attention to, and if you're out there and you think that this is okay despite the analogy that I gave you, you can kiss my ass too. You can miss me with your double standards. It's wrong if it's about someone else, and it's wrong about Taylor Swift. And I'm just, I'm pretty much over Kanye West. Dude's washed. He's done. I will probably listen to his new album, but, I don't have much use for him, and I don't have much use for this. So, again, you can miss me with your double standards, and that's it. We'll take another quick break. When we come back, we'll wrap things up. So you're listening to Back Talk with Sharona. All right, so that's it for today. No guest this week, just Sharona spitting game on some things that are near and dear to her heart. I hope that you've enjoyed both quick shows, only 1 hour shows on Monday and Friday. Just, talking about things that are going on. We may continue this format for a while. We may hit some people up and have them come on and talk about some of these things as well. I hope that you have a great weekend. We'll be back next week with at least one show. Follow my Twitter feed to find out about that at Sports by Sharona, or hit me up on Gmail at sportsbysharona@gmail.com. Have a great weekend, and we'll be back next week.